Back at it for a new year, new session this year, and kind of a different start for a second regular session. Usually when the Senate does, and it's a lot of inside baseball, but in this case it does affect most Missourians in this instance. Normally rule changes are proposed in the first regular session. In this instance, there was one proposed in a second, and it relates to what's known as the previous question. Tell us what happened on that, Senator.
Yes, unfortunately, a rule change did pass this week. It was Senate Resolution 436, introduced by our minority floor leader, and then a Senate substitute was offered by our President Pro Tem. Basically, when we talk about previous question, a move for the previous question is a very rare motion that is used. It cuts off debate and forces a vote. Many times, making a motion for the previous question, or PQ for short, has been used to support Second Amendment bills as well as pro-life bills. Those types of bills are regularly filibustered. We typically have to use a PQ or previous question motion in order to get something across the finish line. Unfortunately, Senate Resolution 436 did pass, which basically increases the threshold for the number of signatures needed to send forth a previous question motion. In my opinion, this will make it harder to pass pro-Second Amendment bills as well as right-to-life bills, pro-life bills. In fact, Missouri Right to Life came out in opposition of this rule change, as well as many Second Amendment preservation groups came out against this rule change as well. I voted against the rule change. This rule had been on the books for about 50 years. It had been a Senate tradition.
Again, with the early portions of the legislature, the legislative session, a lot of what happens from now depends on what the governor talks about in his annual budget address, the State of the State, which is coming up on the 19th.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the governor's State of the State on January 19th at 3 p.m. The governor will lay out his budget recommendations for this next fiscal year. The House will take a look at those budget recommendations as well as the Senate and come up with a compromise somewhere in between. The governor also comes up with policy recommendations, and I look forward to see what policy recommendations and what he wants to prioritize here during this 2022 legislative session.
As we enter into it, and you're, of course, still on the Senate Appropriations Committee, anything you're hoping to see or hear from that speech?
Right now we have a lot of money coming into the state, and we have a lot of your taxpayer dollars that are here. We have a lot of Fed dollars coming in. What I'd like to make sure that we are using that money for is, number one, I always think a tax break is good for our constituents, putting more money in your pocket. But I think some of this infrastructure money could be used for some one-time projects as well. What I do have concern about is creating some new social welfare program that has ongoing expenses. So I'll be looking to see exactly what programs the governor recommends and my colleagues recommend as a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee.